What is the next best thing to having Harvey Weinstein on set with me? His right-hand man, Juda Engelmayer, is back. Hi, Juda.
How you doing, Seema? Nice to see you.
Evenings with Juda, that's what I call this. Okay, today was a big day. All seriousness, it was, I mean, this type of thing does not happen often where someone breaks down not just once, but twice. You were inside the courtroom. Tell us about it.
Well, I mean, breaking down in a trial such as this is probably not uncommon when someone's talking about trauma that happened to them. But the reason she broke down wasn't what people expect. She broke down because of the email she was asked to read between her and her former boyfriend. And in that email, she was pretty much saying she almost loved Harvey like a father. She cared for him and he cared for her and gave her the validation she never had from her family beforehand. And she said that she was assaulted when she was younger. And when Donna presented to her the question of whether or not it was your father, that's when she broke down. She never gave the answer to that question or not.
Okay, and she said sexually assaulted.
She said I believe she said sexually assaulted, yes.
And I do want to clarify something because before in our reporting we weren't sure what she meant when she said sexual assault. She did not mean Harvey Weinstein.
She was not referring to Mr. Weinstein, no.
Okay, so did you get the impression that it could have been her father?
I'm not going to get into and surmise that, but I got the impression it was someone close to her, someone dear to her, and someone that she trusted a lot, and that might have been the reason for some of the issues that she's having right now. In some ways, I think what we might be hearing is she's projecting some problems that she had previously onto Mr. Weinstein.
Now, court took a recess. They gave her 10 minutes to recover, and then she took the stand again, and we heard that she was just as despondent. At some point, she put her head down on the witness table, on the witness stand, the desk, and she collapsed, and Donna Vertuna said, I'm not going to go on like this.
And the judge told Ms. Aluzzi that if another one of your witnesses does this, he's going to rest the case for her. And right then there, and let the defense begin, because it's been a little distracting, and she should know what to expect. And this trial is going to take long enough as it is, and I think the judge lost his patience a little bit.
Is there a concern that Ms. Mann will not be able to resume testimony tomorrow?
Concern for who?
Well, I guess for the prosecution.
There's always that chance, and I'm sure it is a concern.
Or just for the trial. Do you think that's possible?
I believe she's one of their star witnesses. She is what they built their case around. And if she can't finish her testimony, or if she comes off continuously like this, I don't think it can bode well for them.
If she doesn't come back tomorrow, will the defense make a motion to strike her testimony in its entirety, because Donna has not finished cross?
I can't say what they are or aren't going to do, but there are plenty of legal options available, and you probably know them more than I do.
Well, and I mean, thank you for that opening, because I do want to point out, Sixth Amendment, a right to confront your accuser, and if Donna Vertuna or the defense isn't able to fully explore cross-examination, the only recourse is to strike her testimony in its entirety.
Right.
Because whatever is left, it's not a full picture.
Right. I don't know how Judge Burke is going to decide, but sometimes based on the rulings, he might give something in the middle, like we've been seeing.
Now, I find you to be an incredibly fair person. I know from both sides you've always given me, your fair observations of what's happening in that courtroom. Overall, between Friday and today, what do you think of Jessica Mann? How is she coming across to this jury?
I mean, I've been watching her, listening to the cross-examination. She has conflicting comments. She's not consistent with her testimony. Her dates are off. Her times are off. Her rationale seems to be a little off as well. She said she did things because society around her and other elements that she couldn't identify, but no one was actually forcing her or making her do anything, but she did it because she created something in her own head, in her own environment that made this. I don't quite know, but from the questions that were asked on her first examination till now, obviously the prosecutor was asking questions that were, in what we say is cakewalks in the industry, and then the cross-examination is a lot harsher.
A lot of her answers today, and I was in the court for some of the cross-examination, she kept referring to being afraid of Harvey Weinstein's unpredictability, his abuse.
Right.
Do you think that the way she came across with that line of questioning and answering was credible to this jury?
I think she couldn't identify what that abuse was. And if you look back to the history of any of the other witnesses, and by God, read back the rest, the many people who've made accusations against Harvey, who has said that he is like a stalker like that who would come at you like that. Most people, as soon as they said no to him and were done, they finished with them.
Annabelle Skewer.
How long were their encounters? Did it last 5 years?
Okay, she claims that he was stalking her even in London. Baby oil, bathrobe, door, 5 a.m.
Yeah, and that itself was a sketchy story, and it was one time. She didn't say it went on and on and on and on. In this case, this witness was saying that in her head it was continuous, and she always believed. And she said he never said anything to her. Harvey never, ever said anything bad to her, but she said she read between the lines. She saw between the words. I don't know what that means.
Okay, you heard Dr. Barbara Ziv. Are you at all persuaded by that whole area of science that these women suffer from a syndrome, from a trauma?
You could suffer from a syndrome or trauma, and it's quite possible in some cases. I think in this case what we're seeing is that she suffered from a trauma elsewhere and she's projecting it.
You really think so?
I would have to think so, yeah.
Okay, all right. So I just and part of what happened today. Is there anything else that you want to say about?
No, listen. We're not finished with the testimony yet,
right.
and there's not much more to say. That was already on the record.
How was Harvey's reaction to her? Devastating comments about him personally. I mean, it was a lot of personal attacks on him.
I could say a lot about that too. It was, but in all the accusations you've heard about Harvey over the years, how many other people have said that? So someone is not being completely open about that. And then you can, make jokes about it and say if he doesn't have the equipment, then how is he doing anything to anybody? But I'm not going to make that argument right here.
How did he take it?
It's harsh. It's hard. It's
harsh
to hear.
I think any of us.
It's harsh to hear. It's devastating, and I think we've been helping him know to expect it. And I think when he heard it, it was harsh, and when he read the newspapers afterwards, it was harsh. But thank God.
Are you someone that he looks to console him?
He talks to me about what's going on. And I don't know about consolation. I try.
I mean, it is part of your job, right?
I try to help where I can.
Yeah, I think it's part of the job. I mean, as a lawyer, I've done that for
part
clients.
Of anyone who's close to him, anyone who's helping him, anyone who he could reach out to is someone who he would look for consolation for, and we do the best we can.
Part of the argument with respect to Jessica Mann is this other witness, Emanuela.
Right.
I think we have to take a break, but we will talk about her potentially testifying in this trial right after this. Right. More with Judah right after this. Harvey Weinstein's accuser, Jessica Mann, could not go on. She testified, she broke down, she left the courtroom, and then she came back 10 minutes later and she could not go on. She was a puddle of tears, screaming and wailing, and then eventually left the courthouse. The DA's office put her in an SUV. She was crowded by photographers, paparazzi, and she was put in that SUV. And the question on everyone's mind is, will she be okay to testify tomorrow? Her cross-examination is set to resume tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. We shall see. Still with me on set, Harvey Weinstein's publicist, Juda Engelmayer. So, okay, Judah, let's shift gears now to another witness that we expect, and that is Emanuela Posticini.
Right.
She is the woman who was allegedly in the threesome.
Correct.
All right, what's the deal with her?
I mean, the deal that Damon said today in an open courtroom was that by the prosecution trying to put that person on, it's a backdoor to a Molyneux, which are sketchy, like we discussed to begin with. And we're arguing why the testimony that she's going to give is pretty much going to be similar to a prior bad acts argument. The judge ruled that we're probably right. That's why he's limiting what Miss Aluzzi is allowed to ask her. But we know very well that once on the stand, it goes from there to.
It's a free-for-all. Okay, but just to be clear, the reason it's a prior bad act is because Jessica Mann is saying that she was coerced into it, she had negative feelings about it.
Right. So it's not going to be the prior bad act is not the the threesome necessarily, but to the state of mind that she was allegedly abused or coerced or something of the sort by Mr. Weinstein into doing this.
But then on cross-examination, Donna Rotuno was able to bring out that, I think in her diary, she said it was an adventure,
Right.
and she had almost positive and sexy things to say about it.
Well, she would argue that she was just doing it to protect herself in her mind, and she wrote an ironic story in a sense. But yes, and the reason the prosecution wants to bring this witness in would be to convince the jury some more that this guy has another person yet who he abused and tried to bring into his world.
Oh, I completely agree. This is a backdoor Molyneux, and I just want to read some of the judges.
As long as you agree that.
I want to read some of the judge's explanation because I found it to be a little confusing. He says part of his explanation is that the threesome as testified to does not constitute as uncharged crime or even as a bad act.
Right.
And even if it is or were to be considered as Molyneux evidence, it has just the most very slightest prejudicial value, where it has the very probative value, delineating the history and nature of the power relationship between the defendant and Jessica Mann.
Right.
So is that...
That's the judge wanted. That's where I said before. The judge likes to come to halfway decisions and not. So he's going to allow the prosecutor to put up his witness, but is telling everyone that he doesn't quite agree with it, but he's going to let it happen anyway.
Okay. I mean, I think this is prejudicial. It's gonna harm the case.
No, as the judge said, it's
question.
very little prejudicial.
Well, okay, so Joan says it. All right, so now let's talk about there was some other big application this morning.
Right.
And again, this has to do with Tara Wolf
Right.
and the prosecution. We've talked about it for the last 3 hours repeatedly, and the prosecution not turning over
Brady evidence. Right.
according to the defense, Brady evidence of a new witness, another witness, Gloria Bousset,
Right.
who, number one, spoke with Tara Wolf and coming up with the timeline
Right.
of when the alleged incident took place, number one. Number two is there was a third meeting, which was not disclosed to the defense,
Right.
where Tara Wolf, Mr. Weinstein, and Gloria Bousset were present.
Right. So, like you said, coming up with the testimony, coming up with the defense, with what you're going to say.
What are you going to go with?
You
Yeah.
said it all, so I don't even have to say that. But the judge finally today addressed that with the prosecutor and said that she is not the arbiter of what's allowed and what's not allowed. If it's evidence that she has to turn it over. You know, she likes to claim that we didn't know it was evidence, we didn't think it was evidence, we didn't talk to her, but we texted with her, we don't know what we quite did. And she was kind of fumbling through it, and the judge was harshly rebuked her and said that he's not going to let that happen again. But once again, he says it, not going to let it happen again, but still allows the evidence in there.
And it wasn't in front of the jury.
And it was,
I don't care.
It was in front of the jury.
Right,
correct.
and okay, so number one.
It was in front of the press, which is why we're here and making sure people hear it.
Okay, that's fine,
Right.
and we appreciate that. But number one, the point is, like, for the process, this rebuke was not in front of the jury, number one. Number two is there going to be an instruction that the prosecution did not hand over relevant material to the defense?
So I think the judge has been saying over and over again, asking the defense and prosecution to let him know what the instruction should be to the jury at some point when we're ready. But I also think on our final, when we give our final analysis to the jury, we're going to remind them of that and tell them that, inform them of that as well.
So Gloria Bousset is planning to testify?
As so far that I know, yes.
So she's planning, from what we were told, to come on Thursday. Tara Wolf will be back tomorrow.
I believe. Well, it depends on how that depends on how the morning goes. We don't know.
And then what is on deck for? There's also another accuser, the 2013
Right.
Molyneux. She's
Correct,
expected.
right.
Can you give us any glimpse of? There is going to be defense case, like in terms of witnesses.
Oh, we're putting on a case, yes.
Okay.
I assure you
and
that.
did Harvey spend the weekend doing like a mock trial, like you play the judge, Donna and Damon
I think
question him?
his lawyers put it together properly.
What does that mean? Speak English.
His lawyers did the mock
Is he
trial.
testifying?
If he
Okay.
has to testify,
You'll
he
tell
will.
me first.
He's prepared to.
Before you tell anyone, you'll tell me first.
He is prepared to testify.
And you'll tell Seema first.
And he's completely ready for
Or
it.
you can tell Vinny. Or you can tell Julie Grant. You can tell Ted Rollins.
I realize you're trying to pump it out of me right now, but if and when the time comes, he's absolutely ready to.
Okay, Juda Engelmayer, thank you so much. We have a preview now of Closing Arguments with Vinny Politan. Vinny.